Did you do that?
I think it was one of the best decisions I've ever made.
What were some of your expectations of Harvard, and what was the reality?
They were very nice about it. They wish me good luck.
That's so
And
sweet of
yeah,
them.
I really hope one day I'll get to travel to Cambridge.
That should be the title of the podcast.
I can so relate to that now. Now, like living abroad, you come back and you're like, oh my god, mountains.
You can stay in Kazakhstan 1 month without a visa.
No, I literally do that.
Whoa!
But when you come into uni, it's so much more math.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Haileybury podcast. Today we have a very special guest all the way from Boston, Massachusetts, USA.
Hey everyone, my name is Alikseniia. I'm a Haileybury Almaty graduate class of 2023, currently studying at Harvard, concentrating in economics, hopefully with a secondary in statistics and a citation in German.
And we're also joined by our lovely Year 12 guest.
Hi, I'm Alibek Krasibekov. I'm also from Year 12. I'm a Kipling student and I'm a new host of this awesome podcast.
Okay, shall we begin?
Okay.
Would you like to go first with your questions?
Alikseniia, can you tell us more about your current bachelor's degree and what you study?
So right now I'm studying economics. I was originally planning to study law, and I still want to study law. But in the US, it's not an undergraduate degree, so if I want to do law, I'll have to do it postgrad. So right now, studying economics. What exactly do you want to know about the degree?
Okay, so you've already studied a year in Harvard, right?
Yeah.
So throughout this year, what was your like ups and downs? Like what was your top up and bottom low, basically?
In terms of the degree or just overall at Harvard? Let me
At
first
Harvard.
address the economics question.
Okay.
So I think the best way of just contextualizing for people watching it from Haileybury, I would say Haileybury economics, so A-level economics, is very much theory-based. So you don't get to do a lot of math, but when you come into university and you start studying economics there, actually, I was able to skip all the introductory classes with my A-level grades. So I hopped on onto the intermediate microeconomics class. That was a ride. I'm going to be honest, it was like a very difficult class for me, but I also heard from a lot of upperclassmen that it's a difficult class to take. So yeah, I would say it's very similar, and you definitely need the ground knowledge that A-level gives you and all the theory. But when you come into uni, it's so much more math in the economics. And then to address your second question in terms of just uni experience overall and the ups and downs. I mean, obviously the ups are that you're studying in one of the best universities in the world. You get to interact with literally the smartest people, and also being taught by professionals, by very famous people in their fields, and that's obviously all amazing. And also the career centers, the extracurricular activities that you can do there, all great. But the down is honestly the fact that it's located abroad and you're far away from your family, you're far away from your friends. So it takes some time to adapt to the new environment, also to the fact that you are in a completely different country with a completely different mentality.
Damn.
That is quite true. But despite all that, what are the main things that made you consider Harvard in the first place?
If I'm being honest, it's Mr. Stockermans, the lovely human being that he is. I really want to study law, even right now. And when I was applying, I was mostly considering just UK schools, and that was my main sort of focus, because in the UK you can do law as an undergrad degree, so that's where I was headed. I worked very hard towards my application for UK universities, and I think the person who kind of convinced me and prompted me to apply to Harvard was Mr. Stockermans, but it was more like, I know you want to go to the UK, but just give it a try. You might change your mind later. And I think it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. The fact that I, got myself together literally a month before all the deadlines, sat down, wrote the entire application with the help of Mr. Stockermans and other people in the school. And yeah, that's how I got there.
That's impressive.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned that you've studied law, right? Have you guys watched the Suits, the Netflix series?
Yes.
So
yes.
okay, that's my hot take. Would you say that studying like the graduates of law, or like the people who study law at Harvard, do they associate themselves with the like Suits overall, or do they associate themselves with like any media culture that is available?
Actually,
right
people at Harvard, well, Harvard Law School specifically, they make fun of Suits because it's such a misrepresentation. Apparently, like I would not be able to tell because obviously never worked as a lawyer, anything even close. But I was taking a constitutional law class in my first semester, and the TF for our specific section, he was a third-year Harvard Law School student, and I don't remember how we got there, but he was basically making fun of Suits overall and how that's a huge misrepresentation of what working in law is actually like. But Harvard does have a tradition. I don't know, maybe it's just first years, but at the start of the year, they do a screening of Legally Blonde.
I was about to ask you about Legally Blonde.
Of Legally Blonde somewhere. Oh, wait. It's in the yard, very close to the Widener Library. So they do like a huge screening of Legally Blonde. So I guess people embrace Legally Blonde, but not so much Suits.
How come? Do they believe that Legally Blonde is a better representation of?
I think because Legally Blonde is more like girl bossing and girl power.
Yeah, it really is.
And also it's very much a comedy, so like a lot of people understand that some of the things that are happening in Legally Blonde might not be, entirely accurate. And also it's not so much about Harvard Law as it is about, what's her name in Legally Blonde? The girl.
I forgot.
I haven't watched it.
And anyways, it's so much more about her and her ambitions and her being able to prove to herself that she's meaningful.
Sorry?
Yes, Reese Witherspoon, right? Yeah, that she is so much more than just a pretty face. And so I think people prefer that movie over Suits because of, the backstory and the meaning of the movie.
That is true.
Yeah.
How empowering. Okay, what are some things about America overall that people don't generally warn you about or talk about that you've noticed through experience?
I mean, personally, I never thought about things like health insurance. I don't know, I feel like here healthcare is so much more simple and so much more accessible than it is in the US. And something I was definitely not prepared for is the sort of the way that healthcare works in the US.
Okay.
Because for me, health insurance was just something you get if you want to apply for a visa somewhere abroad, right? How many of you have actually used health insurance here in Kazakhstan?
No.
I don't know
Exactly.
how to do that.
I feel like people here don't even really get insurance unless it's car insurance. Like, you just don't get health insurance here. In the US, though, insurance is like a must-have for every single alive human being. And they kind of made us pay for health insurance. It's like student health insurance. It's required by Massachusetts legislation. So Harvard gave us the option of HUHS, so Harvard something healthcare services. They had their own insurance, so I paid for that. But I did not know that it didn't include dental stuff. And then when I found out, it was throughout the year, I found out that it didn't include dental stuff. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I'm probably not going to use health insurance anyways because I've never used it in my entire life and I genuinely did not understand what it was for. And then second semester, I had a terrible toothache, and it was because I didn't have health insurance, dental health insurance. It was cheaper for me to fly back home, literally get tickets, fly back home to Kazakhstan, get everything done here, and then fly back.
So is the myth about the America's crazy health prices, is it actually real though?
It's true.
Oh my god, bro.
No, just imagine buying tickets tickets from here to the US are pretty expensive.
Yeah.
Getting tickets
Yeah.
there and back, doing everything here, was cheaper for me than to stay there
Did
and
you
get it
do
all done there.
that?
That's exactly what I
Whoa.
did. I have
When?
like midway through the semester, before all the midterms, I flew back to Almaty for a week,
Girl.
got everything done here, and then flew back. It was genuinely, I think, a very good decision because I had my family and my mom taking care of me. Because
Yeah.
honestly, wisdom teeth are not a joke, right? Because you can't eat solid food for a while, and it's quite painful.
Is that what it was?
Mhm.
Oh.
And so, like, going home was, in retrospect, a better decision for me personally, but also it turned out to be cheaper.
Crazy.
Crazy.
That's one thing I was not prepared for. Another thing I was not prepared for is the amount of rats, the amount of cockroaches that you will see on the streets.
Really.
Yeah, living in Almaty, living in Bishkek, never had to worry about rats or mice. Maybe in my entire life I've seen them like twice, maybe 2-3 times.
I've seen
But
once.
exactly. See, like, what are you? You're 16, right?
I'm 17.
17.
Yeah.
Exactly. And in like 17 years of your life, you have not seen that many rats or mice. And then you arrive to the US and you genuinely like kind of stay in the same room with mice because mice are everywhere. They're in your dorms. Rats are like everywhere in the basement. Rats are there. Like you be walking from the library at 2 a.m., walking back to your dorm, and rats are just like crossing your way. And you're like, right, guys, welcome.
Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm not sure if there's anything you can do about the rats. You can definitely be prepared about the health insurance.
Yeah.
And
the
just
rats is just like.
Yeah, the rats is just something you'll have to deal
Let's
with.
hope you don't have a phobia or anything.
Yeah, but I think the situation, I've heard the situation in Boston is better than it is in, say, New York.
Okay.
But
Stay
can't,
safe.
Yeah. Can't talk from experience. Never been to New York.
Okay, so my question that I have actually is somewhat gonna be detailed. So just a clarifying question. You got into both UK universities and US universities, right?
Yes.
And you had the choice between what?
Cambridge, Harvard, LSE, Exeter, Sciences Po, and Columbia.
Okay. So out of all those universities you've mentioned, what made you choose Harvard? Was it the QA? Is it called QA? Like, is it the university?
QSA? There's
Yeah.
US.
Is it the QSA?
QSA rankings?
QS.
QS rankings?
QS World
QS
Ranking.
rankings.
The website.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
website.
Yeah.
Basically, like, was it the Harvard's like,
Ranking?
ranking that made you choose it, or was it like the other factors, basically?
Right. So when I was applying, my dream school was LSE. And that was because I didn't even think I had a chance to get into Cambridge or Harvard or any other Ivy League university that I applied to. And when I got my LSE offer, I was like, that's it. You know, I don't even care how the rest of them go. I am going to LSE. I was very happy about it. And then the next day, my offer from Cambridge comes in. And I was very conflicted and I genuinely did not know what to do. And I think a few weeks later, the Harvard one came in and the Columbian one came in. And I was just sitting there with all those great offers. And I was very confused because I really wanted to go to LSE because I did not even consider Cambridge or Harvard as options that I would be faced with. And now I have all these great unis in front of me and I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be doing. But it came down to Cambridge and Harvard at the end, mostly because of courses, because of the opportunities that it would provide me. And I ended up going with Harvard because I was and still am scared that employment is very hard for international students abroad.
Yeah.
And studying law would very much constrain me to the country where I study law. So if I study law in the UK, I'd have to stay in the UK and have to work there because my knowledge would not be particularly applicable anywhere else. And I wouldn't really be able to go home and work as a lawyer. I'll probably be able to do some other things, but not so much law. And in the US, because law is not an undergraduate degree and at Harvard I'd have to study something else. That would basically give me an opportunity to then use those skills and be able to come back home in case something goes wrong. So say I still want to study law and I still want to take the chance and take the gamble, take the challenge and study law in the US and then see where this goes. I still want to work as a lawyer in the US for a few years and then come back. But in case that plan doesn't work out, I have a sort of backup education
Right.
that will allow me to work back home. Yeah.
That sounds...
What a detailed answer,
Yeah,
actually.
that
Crazy
sounds like
though.
a very planned out.
No, it took me ages to make a decision, and I was actually I was ghosting Cambridge. They were emailing me
I
about
remember that.
yeah, they were asking me to give them a decision, and they weren't very like pushy about it, but they did email me a few times, and I feel bad for not responding and for just rejecting the offer. So I wrote them an email back, literally like writing that entire essay I just told you about my reasoning.
Yeah.
They were very nice about it. They wish me good luck.
That's so sweet
And
of
yeah,
them.
I really hope one day I'll get to travel to Cambridge
You should.
and actually, take a course there or something.
Maybe for masters.
Apologize in person.
Yeah.
How it feels like to ghost one of the best universities in the world. That should be the title of the podcast.
Yeah.
Actually.
I mean, I wasn't ghosting them entirely. I did respond in the end. But I do still have a screenshot of actually you guys don't know, but not yet. In UCAS, on the website through which you apply to UK universities, you are able to either accept or reject the offer once it comes in. And once you press the reject button, they list out all your universities and all your offers. And once you reject one of them, it's like a box, and it says the name of the university, name of the course, date it starts, and then it says rejected. And I took a screenshot of all the unis I rejected. Especially, I think I still have the LSE one and the Cambridge one. But it wasn't so much because I wanted to, feel good about myself about rejecting these unis. I genuinely felt really bad. Like, really, really bad rejecting these amazing
Really?
universities. Yeah. I would love to go to any of those universities. I think they are amazing. It literally just came down to these, small details.
Yeah.
But I saved this more of as a reminder for myself that, I had options, and I was essentially they were willing to take me in, and they were willing to educate me. So it was more of as a reminder of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that you should always keep in mind, just about yourself. I like how detailed your plan is also. The way you thought about it so much. It's quite impressive.
Yeah. I mean, you guys will be facing these decisions soon as well. So
yeah.
trust
Hopefully
me,
we're as wise.
you'll have
as you.
mind maps, and you'll be calling people, you'll be talking to all your teachers to the point where they find you annoying.
Doing the pro and con list.
yes,
You know?
yes.
Mm-hmm.
And including stupid things like, oh, they have the better waffles. I don't know.
Can't wait. Right, so moving on. What were some of your, as you accepted the offer, what were some of your expectations of Harvard, and what was the reality?
I had high expectations. All those expectations were met, maybe even over the top.
Ooh.
I expected the education to be of the highest quality, and that's exactly what I saw. One thing I was a bit scared of, and I sort of anticipated, was maybe that people would be a bit too competitive. The stereotypical,
Oh yes.
Yeah.
It's just
Ivy League kids who are,
can't sit with us.
Yeah, because, we're too smart for this.
Mhm.
We're not going to share notes with you. That is absolutely not the environment there. It's the complete opposite. I just feel like everybody is struggling with work. So everyone is willing to help you out. And genuinely, if you miss a few lectures or you're behind on your notes, people will, if you ask, people will help you. And it's very common also for university students to study together, form study groups, do homework together, study for exams together. So I was very, very pleased about that, because I was a bit worried that it might be a bit the competition. People are competitive, but I thought that the competition would be a bit toxic. But
Yeah.
I was happy to find out that it was a very healthy, very like welcoming environment in terms of studying. What other expectations did I have? Honestly, I'm gonna be honest. Like, I had higher hopes of like for the
Dorms?
dorms. Yeah,
Guessed it.
I got an amazing dorm. I am not even complaining. I honestly think it was one of the best dorms on campus. It was very spacious. I had the best roommate I could wish for. Like, everything was great, but I feel like for other students it wasn't as amazing as it was for us. And it's just sad to realize that it's like 32 people living in that one building, which I thought was great, and then the rest of the like 1,000 students literally living in dorms that genuinely need to be renovated, need to have more space, especially more private space, need to have better like bathrooms, more facilities, but I don't know.
Because you said it was like a lottery, isn't it? To give
Yeah.
everyone a fair chance of getting a good dorm or a bad one.
For first years, you fill out like a survey where you describe your perfect roommate. You submit a bunch of facts about yourself, like when you get up, when you go to bed. It's done so that people like know who to room you with. You know?
Is it like Tinder but for roommates? Is it because that's how I saw it, like.
Essentially, but you don't get to pick your roommate, right? Your roommate is randomly assigned to you by whoever. Actually, I don't even know what office is doing this, but they read through your application. They read what sort of roommate you want. They look, I think most of the time they look at your schedule, like what time do you get up, so that you don't wake up your roommate and like your roommate doesn't wake up you, so that you guys have a comfortable life at college. They also ask about your interests, like what you do on weekends. So basically you fill out that questionnaire, then like halfway through the summer they send you an email with where you're going to be living. They don't really describe like what your room is going to look like, but they give you the contact of your roommate, and then you can interact with them, get to know them before you arrive, discuss like who wants to like sleep where in case you know what your room looks like, which is very rare. And in your coming years, so sophomore, junior, senior year, you get allocated in a specific house and you stay in that same house for the rest of the 3 years. But the rooms within the house are lotteried out every year. So every year you have to move out and you have to move back in. And like the older you are, the more priority you have. So like say seniors, they are able to like literally pinpoint and like pick the rooms that they want. Juniors have they can pick from the rest of the rooms, and then the sophomores they kind of get they just kind of get the rest of the rooms lottery.
The middle children, basically.
Yeah,
just being forgotten.
Wait, that's true because like first years are the youngest.
Yeah.
And then seniors are the oldest.
That's so true.
Sophomores are kind of like.
You know, that's so surprising. I did not expect them to be so. I mean, considering that they get thousands and thousands of like people into every single year. I didn't expect them to be so generous, like with the roommates and like the timetables. I thought they would just like throw you in, you figure it out as you go.
No, I think it's great because
it is great.
Yeah, I think even like when you're going into your sophomore year, you are able to choose up to 8 people like who you want to live with in a house. So again, so you kind of like get the chance to make some friends throughout the year, and you get the chance to live with them for the next 3 years, which is amazing. Also, another thing that I think is a great advantage at Harvard is the fact that they have guaranteed housing for all 4 years, which really takes off the pressure of having to find a place to stay like halfway through your university career. Because I know people at Tufts who I think after their second year they have to move out and they have to find a place. So obviously they're going to be rooming with other people and like renting an apartment together, but it's just finding housing in Boston, finding housing in Cambridge is quite difficult. So it's very nice that we get to stay in those dorms.
Yeah, I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
What did you do during your high school years? and what interests you had basically, and what are the interests you still have in your university?
Right. So in Haileybury, I did a lot of things, and I did them at different times. I think there wasn't anything that like carried out through the entire senior school experience. I participated in MUN. I participated in debate. I also led a bunch of community projects, so things like Umit Academy. We also worked on a project with girls graduating in the same year as me, to Zbie.
Yeah.
I also volunteered at the women's shelter, teaching kids there. I forgot the name of another one. Like my very first one. Teaching for Heroes, yes, TFH. So there was that one. So a bunch of volunteering as extracurriculars. What else did I do? I did music. I finished the London College of Music examinations, grade 8 for piano. And after I did that, I continued playing, but mostly for myself. I kind of sang, but never professionally. It was more like, oh, we have a talent show. Who can sing? Hey,
And
like
everyone
three
just-
people. Yeah, three
Everyone
people
just
can
stares
sing.
at you.
Three people can sing and keep playing. You know, let's all sing together or something like that. And I also did figure skating. So I think all of these things, most of them I carried over to university. So for MUN, I did not participate in MUN myself, but I helped organize HMON. So I was one of the assistant directors in the committee. I was actually sending this information over to Mr. Stockermans and to the school to participate because I think it's a great opportunity. There were so many students, but the problem is it is physical, so you have to like physically fly to Boston.
I remember the reason why we didn't went is actually because it was the exam season basically. So we had the mock exams. Those are GCSEs. Those are A levels, and because the HMON fell on that exam season, we just couldn't
I
go
see.
there.
Well, HMON is for anyone who can participate in HMON. Definitely a wonderful experience for high school students. Also, they get to interact with Harvard undergrads, and you can ask them all the questions that you have, and you will get more exposure to and like more of your questions answered in different ways. All right, I did not do debate in university. With music, I joined the Radcliffe Choral Society. So there are 3 choirs, Harvard choruses. Fully, I think it's basses and tenors, alto sopranos, and a mixed choir. I joined the alto soprano choir. There's also like a very funny story about the way that I joined the choir, because honestly, I was thinking about it. I wanted to sing in university, but not to the point where I would really want to commit. But I'm glad I did. It like genuinely, Radcliffe Choral Society was the best experience of the entire year. And the way that I joined the choir was literally walking out of our university dining hall, and I see a person with a poster, just like a huge poster, and he's standing there like this, and he like the poster, the only thing the poster says is sing.
Sing.
I looked at it, I was
Is that like an audition?
yeah, you did, you had to go through all the auditions,
okay.
and I just see that poster. And I'm like, never mind. So I walk out of the dining hall, and then something in my head clicks, and I walk back in, and I ask him more information about the choir itself. And he's like, oh, you should definitely try out, and like, you should come to the auditions. I'm like, sure. When can I do that? He's like, you can just do that now.
What?
And this is literally me. It was like, I don't know, like 5 p.m. on a weekday. And I just walked downstairs, and all of this is happening in the basement of our dining hall.
With the rats.
yeah, with the rats.
The singing rats.
Rats were part of the audience actually.
Yeah.
They've been cheering
I've
for you
never
maybe.
seen a rat in Annenberg. I'm talking about Annenberg. This is like the first year dining hall.
In Scotland.
No, in Cambridge.
Oh, sorry, I thought you said
Annenberg.
Edinburgh. Ah, never mind.
Annenberg. Annenberg. It's like a huge building. It has a theater stuck next to a dining hall, so it's like one building, and then the basement is a bunch of classrooms, and like they have music classrooms as well. So that's where they did all the auditions.
Okay.
There are no rats. I've never seen rats in that building actually.
This is disappointing.
Anyways, and so yeah, I auditioned. I did not think that I would get it because also like during the audition my voice was shaking and I was super worried. But people there were very nice and they were able to recognize that people auditioning would be worried and would probably not be showing their best. But singing in that choir, it's a very large community of people, and I think it's more of a community than it is of a choir. And the people I'm rooming with next year I met through the Radcliffe Choral Society. We also did a tour over the south in January, so during the January break we went on tour and we perform every semester like 3 or 4 times. So that's the most fun extracurricular I have ever done, and I really want to continue with this all like to the end of my university experience. Okay, what else did I do? Right now I'm trying to comp. So there's this thing at Harvard called comping, which is basically to be able to get into a club, you need to pass certain requirements or like basically demonstrate to them that you are worth being in that club.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to be in the Harvard Undergraduate Law Review, and for that I need to write a few articles before they take me in as a like complete writer. So I was trying to do that last semester, and I'm also trying to do that during the summer right now. So I think that is going to be very fun.
Does it mean that you weren't as successful last time, right?
Last semester? Actually, I would say yes, because I did not have enough time last semester to fully commit to the law review, and you have to write 2 articles to be able to sort of pass through the comp. I wrote the longer article, but I did not have time to write the shorter article, and I could technically finish the rest of the comp in the fall semester, but they let me do it over the summer and a bunch of other kids. So the plan is hopefully to finish the short article over the summer, and then the comp will be done. But yeah, you're right. It should have been done in 1 semester.
Wow.
All right. That's nice that people are giving extensions, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is another thing about universities. You know how in high school, like, everybody's super strict about deadlines,
Yeah.
and you get super stressed if, like, you didn't get something in and Google Classroom is screaming at you, telling you that you're late? That never happens in university. I was so stressed about deadlines my first semester, and sometimes you genuinely have a lot of things going on. So in school, they kind of plan out your timetable for you. And so in school, it very rarely happens that you have like too many things going on for you to be able to manage it, but it does happen sometimes.
Mm.
But because you are now at university and you make up your own timetable, sometimes things clash when they're not supposed to. So you have like in the same week, you have a concert, you have like 20
Finals.
deadlines. Yeah, you have midterms, and then you also have like a bunch of deadlines for your other classes, and it all collapses, and you generally don't know what to do with yourself, and you understand that you won't be able to finish those deadlines. What you do is you email your professors, and then your professors are absolutely understanding and absolutely fine with you taking a few more days, like 2-3 more days, like maybe sometimes even a week, to finish off your work, because they care about the quality of the work that you produce. And they also understand that you are now adults and responsible human beings who would not genuinely, like, purposefully put off work.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're basically just... It's very different from high school. And you no longer stress that much about deadlines.
That is so enlightening to hear.
Yeah.
Also quite comforting, considering that university life is pretty stressful.
Yeah.
And just to follow on from the question about extracurriculars, because this might be general knowledge, but I've always been questioning this, like whenever people would talk about extracurriculars in uni. So in high school, doesn't matter where you're applying to for uni, in high school, you have to do extracurriculars for your CV to make yourself look good for these universities. Are extracurriculars in universities, are they also to get into either master's or jobs, or are they more just for fun, for leisure, for your own, like, self-development?
Right. I think it's a combination of things. Obviously, there is much less stress now because I feel like during high school, you're trying to boost your CV as much as possible and you're trying to put yourself through all these extracurriculars. There's much less pressure about that in university purely because it's more important for you to get a job than it is for you to like participate in all these clubs.
Mm-hmm.
And so most of the time people join clubs just for because they enjoy them. So like things like Radcliffe Choral Society, I'm not entirely sure whether that's something that's particularly helpful to employers or to like applications further on unless unless you have like some sort of position, like you're the president of the club or something. But this is just something that you do for yourself, for your mental well-being essentially. I will say it depends on what grad school you want to do. So if you want to do masters in, say, like, I don't know, something STEM related, they might have their own requirements, and I haven't even looked into it. But I know that for law school, they don't really care that much about your extracurriculars as much as they care about your GPA and your LSAT score. So LSAT is like the SAT, but for law. And so you take the LSAT, you submit your grades, you obviously send in your CV and you can talk about other things that you have done, like your extracurriculars. But from what I have heard so far, it seems like what's more important for law school applications is just the grade and your GPA, the grade, and your LSAT score. Okay. So I think it really depends. But I will say that extracurriculars are also a way for you to meet new people outside of your major. Because yes, Harvard is liberal arts, and yes, you can take classes in all sorts of fields. But if you're, say, concentrating in economics, most of the classes you will take, whether you want it or not, will be centered around economics. And you will probably, even the electives that you will choose, so the general education courses, you will try to more or less tailor them towards econ or something that you might find interesting, and you will still keep interacting with the same circle of people, I would say. And so even though it's a huge university and like obviously you meet different people in different classes, but I feel like still having concentrations naturally brings the same sorts of people together, and extracurriculars are a way for you to meet people outside of your field and to make connections, to network. Especially with things like HMUN, so the Harvard MUN, they do a lot of networking activities within the International Relations Council. So at Harvard, there's the International Relations Council, and they do all sorts of things. They do a bunch of MUNs. They do also, I think Model Congress is also part of the IRC, so the International Relations Council. So if you participate in HMUN, you attend events organized by the International Relations Council, and so you get to interact with a sort of a wider variety of people.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a lot, actually.
But they do sound quite important, so I'm glad you answered that.
On the topic of extracurriculars, one of the questions that a lot of people are asking is, can the admissions officers see when you're being ingenuine? For example, if for example I apply 150 extracurriculars just for the sake of university application, can they see it through the essays that I write, or about, let's say, I know, like what I report to them? Can they find it out?
Yeah, fact check it. Well, I am not sure whether they can fact check everything that you write in your application. But I will say these people know what they're doing, and once you arrive at your university, you realize that the application process was not like a lottery, so it wasn't random, because the type of students that you meet, when they say they want diversity, they mean they want diversity because you arrive there and you see diverse people. When they say they want like passionate people, this is exactly what I was able to see at Harvard. People have very, very different passions I didn't even know or didn't even think could exist. But every single human being at Harvard is insanely passionate about something. Sometimes it's something very niche. But so that, like, you know that very weird thing they write on their websites about the sort of students that they want. While you're applying, it seems like every university has or wants the exact same type of people. It turns out that that message on the website is as precise as it could possibly be, because even when you go to like universities like Yale, you genuinely feel the difference between Yale students and their vibe and like Harvard students. So I feel like the admissions team at universities, they know what they're doing. So and authenticity is something that people in general value, but universities especially, because they don't want somebody on campus who would not fit their environment.
Yeah.
So they try to pick out authentic applications. I would say like essays that you read and they scream you. You can feel like that it was written by you. I think these are the best essays. And in terms of extracurriculars, I mean, I've been saying this, and I think Mr. Stockermans always says this. Your extracurriculars need to be done for something. Mm-hmm. So you can't just put 20 things on your application and they're all very random. It's very clear and it's very easy to see when you're doing extracurriculars just for the sake of doing them.
Yeah.
You know, if you have a specific goal, if you're going into an extracurricular activity and you already know what sort of skill you want to work on in that activity, that really shows in your application. Because when you bring all those extracurriculars together, it's very evident what the person wanted from these extracurricular activities, what they got from them, and whether that matches their passion overall.
That's actually like really informative, because I feel like a lot of people are just like partake in CCAs that they don't necessarily like, for example, and they just hope that it will play off in the future.
Yeah.
Rather than, concentrate their effort, their time on something that they actually like.
Yeah, I think it's a big problem, and some advice I give to people when they ask me what extracurriculars they should do the extracurriculars that will help your passion, and you will genuinely enjoy. There's no point of doing something you won't like.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely no point.
Because you won't do it well anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I will say, for younger students, I think it's a good thing that, say, parents or teachers are forcing them to go and try different things, even
That
if they
is
don't
true.
want to do things like debate, but you force them and you're like, yeah, go try it out. I think that's important, because when you're young and you don't really know yet what you want to be doing, it's very important for you to explore all the things that are there and then realize that, actually, I don't like this. Yeah.
That's fair.
Cool.
Yeah.
And
No, go for it.
sorry. Okay. The one of the most important, one of the funniest things that you've mentioned was about difference between Harvard people and Yale
I was
people.
about to ask that.
For example, the thing is, there is a lot of universities around the world that have beef with each other, right?
Yeah.
So it's like
Yes.
in Korea, in China, in Japan, for example, there is a certain culture where universities always compete, and students tend to prank even their own universities.
Yeah.
For example, by dressing into their opposing team. Is it a thing in Harvard? Because I know that Harvard and Yale are beefing with each other.
Yes, it is so a thing. I think just Ivy League overall, they're very competitive and they don't particularly like each other. But I feel like the most beef is happening between Harvard and Yale all the time. I mean, even the most, I feel like is the most famous game for Ivies is Harvard-Yale. First of all, Americans are obsessed with their football.
Yeah.
And Harvard-Yale is the game everybody knows about because it's football and because it's Harvard and Yale. And let me tell you this, Yale has, so there are these things called fight songs. And this is basically the Haileybury hymn that we sing sometimes, right?
We
Vive
have a
with
hymn?
Haileybury. Or were you not there?
That one.
I
Yeah,
was
I wasn't
in year
here.
7. It was actually a thing.
Yeah, so there's a very similar thing for universities. They have their their song, but they also have fight songs. So whenever a different university comes, they cheer onto their team by singing those songs. And I know this from choir because, during choir, after all your performances, you kind of sometimes you sing all the fight songs when it's like a concert that is tied to an event like that, like Harvard, Yale. And Yale has fight songs against Harvard. Harvard has fight songs against Yale, but no other school. So it was so funny when Princeton came to Harvard and we were out there and we literally have no songs against Princeton. And you know what we did? We started singing our songs against Yale.
That's so demeaning.
That is so like
What?
it's so
Poor
demeaning.
Princeton.
It's like we don't even consider you guys at that much of a competition for us. That
We didn't even
that
write a
we don't-
song
yeah,
for
that
you
we
guys.
don't even have a song for you guys. So we're gonna sing a song about Yale because like we don't really care about you.
The disrespect is crazy.
Yeah.
So no, but genuinely it gets so heated. Like I was at Harvard, Yale. I visited Gauhar, if you remember, she went off to Yale.
Yeah.
Yes, I was visiting her at Harvard, Yale, because this year the game was at Yale, and we came there with the choir to perform. And after the game, Harvard lost, but after the game, when we were trying to find our bus, which was also insanely hard to do because I swear all of Harvard campus migrates to Yale. It's insane. Like all of Yale campus is either Harvard students or Yale students, and way too many Harvard students. Like so many Harvard students. Anyways, because the parking lot was so populated, we literally could not find our bus. Yale people were booing us. We were there dragging ourselves very tired with like our suitcases, and also it was cold, and I felt like, well, I don't know why I didn't take a coat, but it was genuinely cold, and all these like Yale people were just booing us while we were walking.
Too bad you don't have the well-being team at Harvard, do you?
No, I think there is like there's a bunch of
is.
yeah, there's a bunch of places you could get mental
Yeah.
health help.
But spill the tea. What's the lyrics like?
Oh my god, I don't even remember.
Because you mentioned something along the lines of like, Yale is our safety school.
Oh yes, they sing stuff like this. But then once Harvard loses, Yale people be walking by and then saying that Harvard is their safety school. I think the biggest roast for Harvard specifically was the fact that we don't have a mascot.
Oh, you don't?
Most U.S. universities have a mascot. I would say all U.S. universities have a mascot. Yale's mascot is the bulldog,
Really?
right?
Yeah, I think I saw it
Yeah.
on some stickers. from-
Yeah. For Princeton, it's tigers, right? So basically every single university has their mascot. And then Harvard just doesn't. Our mascot is some guy. I don't even remember his name. But people don't consider him as a mascot because it's a human being. And they're like, that's not a mascot. And so when Princeton came and they were like singing songs about us, they were making fun of the fact that we don't have a
Oh.
mascot.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Actually, there's another funny story. When Princeton came to Harvard, we were doing a concert. And so the way that concerts work at events like this is like one of the schools performs their repertoire, then the other school performs their repertoire, and then at the end they have these like fight songs or they sing, their own hymns. And so while Princeton was singing their fight songs against Harvard, somebody came out and there was like a fight on stage.
Ooh.
Seriously.
Like someone from Harvard.
Who won?
Oh, I don't. Well, it got very heated. They ripped up the tiger apart. So there was like a
Whoa.
there was a plushy tiger,
No.
and they ripped up the tiger.
Not the tiger.
And then Harvard felt really bad, and so they found someone who owns a plushy tiger, and they gave them the tiger back, but they sewed on a Harvard shirt onto the tiger.
It's crazy.
They get so petty about it. It's
Oh my
insane.
days.
That's so cute.
Even like I was talking with my roommate, she's on the Harvard swim team, and she was, I don't remember what event it was, but it was also one of the Ivies. And after the competition, they had like a dance off.
Oh.
Well,
Like,
Just imagine people in the pool having
yeah.
a dance off.
Like, what is it? Synchronized swimming?
No, she's an actual swimmer.
Yeah.
But they leave the pool
Yeah.
and they just dance just there, and like it's a dance off between the two schools.
That's so cool.
I don't know, like Ivies get super petty about each other.
just trying to show who's like the best or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's fun. I quite like that. I hope it's the same in the UK.
It's very funny. It's
Yeah.
very funny.
How would you define like Harvard students and any other maybe Ivy students that you've met so far? Do they have what traits they share among each other?
All Ivy students are insanely hardworking.
Mm-hmm.
I've met a few people from Yale. I've met a few people from Princeton. I know some people at MIT, which is not an Ivy League school, but still.
Yeah.
Everybody there is insanely hardworking. Like, I cannot describe the amount of effort someone can put in for their classes, for something that they like. But something that brings all of them together is hard work.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I would say is awareness, just of generally what's going on in the world. I feel like while I was in high school, it was more of like your own bubble, and you kind of know what's going on abroad, but you're so focused on your education right now that you don't really like educate yourself enough about the current events in the world. And I think Ivy League students, I don't know if they're forced into doing that just because of the reputation that they have as like essentially like very educated people. But I would say Ivy League students are very opinionated about events going on in the world, and they're also very educated about them.
Okay.
Harvard specifically, I would say it's the passion. I cannot speak for other universities. I don't think I know them close enough to be able to say that. But for Harvard universities, people are insanely passionate about something. Like, you can see their eyes just like sparking when they're talking about something that they genuinely care about. And for every single student there, it's different, like what they want to do with their life. But everyone wants to basically not necessarily change the world in some way, but bring good to the world through their work. And they're very passionate about the way that they're going to do that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hopefully it works out. Because
Yeah,
come on,
yeah.
the brains of the world are concentrated in these places.
Yes. Hopefully it will
So
work out.
they better be, diverted into the right direction.
Yes. I totally agree.
Yeah. Also, on topic of the brains of the world, do you think Harvard, just based on your opinion so far, does Harvard deserve the rank it has?
I also heard that it's losing its rank right now, but I think it does. So far, what I have seen, I am very impressed and very satisfied with just the expectations that I had for this university, as I already said, are met and maybe even over the top. And so I genuinely think it deserves the ranking that it has because of the resources that it gives its students, because of the professors and just the faculty that is there, that is teaching, the quality of the education they're providing. Because it's one thing being a professional in your field, it's another thing to be able to sort of impart your knowledge onto someone.
Yeah.
Right? The equipment, the fact that they allow students of any background to participate in their events, because Harvard, they have a nice financial aid policy, and so most of the things that you do for Harvard will be paid. So you will get paid for them. So even like when we went on tour, we did not have to pay a penny.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was all paid for by Harvard. Whenever it's field trips, whenever it's any sort of research, regardless of your background, it will be funded. And most of the time, money is just not a problem there, because Harvard is able to give those opportunities to people. So I think Harvard definitely deserves its ranking. I have heard that the ranking is currently falling because of the protests that are happening on campus and all the problems that are there right now with the administration not letting people graduate because of their participation in the pro-Palestine protests. So I have heard that the ranking is falling, but I have not actually seen.
I see.
Yeah.
Wow. It's insane how big of an impact something like this could make.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a it's a big school, and also it's very famous, and I feel like it's always on the eyes. It's always being watched by the media.
Yeah.
It's
They care about
Just-
face.
just being monitored by alumni, by other famous people who have their kids going there, or it's just, I feel like it's such a big name
Mm-hmm.
that whenever it appears in the news, suddenly everyone knows about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite maybe a spiky question. Based on the like protests, how did the protests at the campus like affect your life? Did they maybe somehow change your lifestyle, or maybe you're just trying to do something else now?
Right. Well, I personally do not feel educated enough on the topic to have some form of opinion on it, let alone participate in any of the protests or against them. So in terms of the experience I've had so far, which is that the protests were happening right outside my dorm. So I lived in the yard, and the protests were literally, you look out of the window and you see the encampment. Sometimes there was like chanting, and it might have been loud. I have heard from people in my building that sometimes it gets too loud and it's distracting. They can't study, and they have like, instead of studying at home, they have to go to a library, which is not a problem, but just not as convenient as it could be.
Yeah.
But overall, I don't think the protests impacted me negatively at all. But I do feel like a lot of people have very strong opinions about the way that the administration is handling the encampment, handling the students. So for me personally, it wasn't a negative experience, and I think they're fighting for a good cause. But yeah, I don't think it was a big impact on me.
Interesting.
Pretty cool. Yes.
But I will say it is prompting me, like that being said, it is prompting me to know more about this. Because, I feel like because I was so busy with schoolwork, didn't really have enough time to read into the details
That
of
is
what's
true.
going on. I know maybe the overview of what's happening in Israel and Palestine right now. And I wish I knew more, which I think is the purpose of the protests, for people to
Yeah, it
become
is.
more aware.
To raise awareness,
Yeah.
raise action.
Yeah.
Yeah. Overall, you did express your interests in studying law very enthusiastically. But how has Harvard changed your perspective on law? If it did at all.
I think there was a bit of a... Okay, so coming in first semester, I decided to take an introduction to the American Constitution class. I also took, it was a requirement, so every Harvard student, when they come in, they have to take an expository writing course, which is basically just like professors educating you on academic writing.
Okay.
It's nothing special, but you are able to choose what topic you want to write about. And there, again, I chose personhood in the U.S. Constitution. So basically, I had two classes that were centered around the U.S. Constitution. And one thing, I don't know why I didn't think of that, but I was surprised by what the law school professor teaching the introductory American Constitution class said to all of us. You cannot learn law without learning the context in which it was created.
That's why history is so important.
Yeah.
To those people who think, like, why do we do history? It's literally just learning about
No,
the
for
past.
real.
That's why.
Yeah. History was just genuinely also a very interesting subject
Yeah,
at
it
A level.
is.
Yeah. But what he said genuinely stuck, because when I was working with legislation here in Almaty and I was reading through our codes, I just felt like there was no need for a historical background to understand what's happening in law here. I don't know if my opinion will change, but in the US, because of the way the legal system is constructed there, because everything is based on precedents and all legal decisions are based on precedents, it is so insanely important to know the context in which the precedents were created.
That is true.
Because like even, I don't know, do you guys both take history?
Yeah. I take
For
history.
A-level, no.
Have you read the Dred Scott case yet, or does anyone know about it?
Is it the civil rights movement? in
Yeah,
USA?
yeah.
No.
It's a very
Sorry.
famous case in the civil rights movement, and it's about Black people's right to citizenship. But that case, while absolutely atrocious, needs to be read in the context of when it was passed.
Okay.
Right? And it's the same with every single case, and you can genuinely see how history and public opinion has changed and how that has impacted the legal decisions. But some people do argue that the legal decisions end up impacting public opinion, so it's like the other way around. But regardless of which way it is, it's very important to know the historical context. So I think to answer your question, my approach to law, like learning about law, has changed because I was taught that it's important to look at the context, the historical context in which
That's fair.
legislation is passed.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. The other question is, when you came back to Almaty from Boston, what have you started to notice like immediately after you? How many days you spent here now?
Like a couple of weeks, 2 weeks.
So, what are the main things that stand out in Almaty that you haven't noticed before?
That's such a good question. Honestly, it's the mountains.
Seriously?
Yeah, I feel like you see them every single day. And also, I spent all of my childhood in Bishkek, which is the exact same thing. Mountains are there. And for some reason, in my mind, I never thought that there could be a sky without mountains.
I know.
Like, it was just in my head, and I never thought about that.
And the ski resort too. So like,
The
fact that you like can't just go and ski randomly on the weekend.
Yeah, I never thought about that. Even when I was traveling, I was like, okay, sure, they don't have mountains here, but like when I come home, I see mountains. And then suddenly you leave and you're in Boston for how long? Like a year, and you realize that the sky is missing the mountains. And then you come back and you're like, oh my God, this is so gorgeous. I can't believe I lived here for so long and I never like appreciated.
Yeah, people
the
take
mountains.
things like that for granted, don't they?
Yeah. I didn't.
Was it like the stories recently of a famous like singer from America? She was like in the hotel. She looks in the window and then she sees mountains and like she made a little story where he's where she's like showing it.
And she's so impressed and she's like screaming into the phone. She's like, "Oh my
What,
God!
here?
Look
Yeah.
at our mount! Look at the mountains!"
The Pussycat Dolls.
Oh, really?
That's more about my generation, I think, rather than yours.
But I feel like it's been reposted in some of the news channels on the
yeah.
Instagram. I can name a few, like for example, Almaty city,
Yeah.
and they also translated it, and like just the pure emotion of like seeing the mountains so
Yeah.
close to you is just
I can so
weird.
relate to that now. Now, like living abroad, you come back and you're like, "Oh my God, mountains!"
crazy.
That's kind
Yeah.
of how you feel when you go to Astana, because I remember 2 years back was my first time going to Astana. First thing I see, we're in the airport, like we're going down, and then there's this huge window in the airport, and I just look over, and then it's the step, and you know what
Yeah.
it feels
Just
like.
plain, absolutely
You know what
empty.
it feels like. You know, like in Minecraft, the
Oh my God! Yeah, the plain world. Oh
the
my
plain
days.
world
True.
thing. That's how it felt. I don't play Minecraft, but like that's how it felt.
Yeah. I get
It's
what
weird.
you're saying. The other question is like, if you compare an Almaty citizen, for example, I know, have you talked to high schools in Boston? High schoolers?
High schoolers, not so much, no.
Okay. Then let's say you compare a university student from Almaty and from Boston. What are the differences? Like, okay, we've talked about the differences as you notice in like in city-wise, you know, geography or main features. But what about the people? Maybe there are some like mindset differences or something that stands out.
Right. I am not entirely sure if I can speak for like university students specifically because I don't think I interacted with that many university students here. But in terms of the people themselves, people in Kazakhstan are much more open, much more sort of like heartfelt.
Really?
Yeah, welcoming. I think when they say that Central Asian countries are, what do they say?
Hospitable.
Thank you, that's the word. When they say Central Asian people are hospitable, they mean it because overall, I feel like people here are much warmer and much more genuine. In the US, people are very friendly, but it's also like, it feels very surface level. And they don't even, I feel like US people don't even notice it. It's something you discuss with international students. Because this is something international students genuinely bond over. It's the fact that Americans are very like surface level friendly. You know?
What do you mean by that? Can you maybe give some examples?
Like fake nice?
No. It's I don't think it's the fake nice. It's like maybe. Can you give some examples?
I don't know. I was talking about this to a few American friends of mine, very close friends, and like I genuinely love them so much. But it's so hard to explain. I think you need to travel there and see it for yourself. It just feels different. One of the best examples is the way that they greet you. So they say, "Hey, how are you?" And they don't mean it. So it's like a greeting, and your response is supposed to be "hey," and you walk past. So the "how are you" part is like the continuation of the "hey," but nobody actually like cares how you are.
I've heard that like in certain like cultures, especially the Western cultures, if someone asks you "how are you," and this is kind of common sense in our culture as well. Like, if someone asks you, "how are you?" and you start going on a tangent about, "Yeah, my dog died. I feel horrible. I'm so sad." You kind of become socially, like, people don't
want to talk
recognize
to you.
that.
You don't really talk about it.
Obviously, if they're your mom or, like, a close friend, obviously you can say that. But if we're just passing by and I start telling you how awful my life is, that's going to be
No, even saying things like, "I'm okay," like when you reply with "I'm okay," they know you're an international student.
Oh,
yes,
is that
like even if you
simple?
say that you're okay, like people will know you're international because like they just don't expect a response. They just say, "Hey, how are you?" and that's it. And the conversation just ends there and you keep walking past each other. So
cool.
It feels like there's nothing wrong with that. And obviously, if it's your close friend, you will be able to talk to them about your problems and they will care about your well-being and how you're doing. But I think just this situation itself shows the difference between the type of people here and the type of people there.
That's interesting. So like you can say that people here are like more genuine.
I would say genuine. Yeah, I would say people here are more genuine.
What is it that Haileybury has taught you well enough that you didn't really consider at your time in school, but once you got into university, you think back to yourself and be like, "Oh, that was actually so useful."
Haileybury. Okay, Haileybury has taught me so much, and more specifically the people there. So apart from all the academics, just talking to your teachers about life in general has been insanely useful. And I still come back to the school and I talk to teachers there when I need advice or when I think I'm doing something wrong or when something just feels off. I talk to teachers about it. I talk to my parents about it, but I would say, I keep saying this to everyone though, everywhere. Something that really stuck with me for some reason, it was Mr. Donovan saying, you take out whatever you put in.
Yeah.
I'm genuinely like, I don't know if he intended this to be as like a wise saying or something that he
I think that's just the kind of person that he is. He's just like
Yeah.
this wise wizard that greets you.
Yeah, no, I swear it was something that he just said in the middle of a class way back in like year 11 or maybe even year 9.
Wow.
Like, we were very young. I'm pretty sure nobody even remembered the fact that he said this. Maybe someone did. Well, I obviously did. But this is something that just continues traveling with me everywhere I go. And it's just a sort of... The meaning behind this phrase is that
It's
the
like
outcome that you receive is equivalent to the amount of effort that you put in.
It's well deserved.
Yeah. You know how they say hard work pays off?
Yeah.
yeah.
Something very similar to this, but it's also like emotional.
Mm-hmm.
So if while you're working, you also put in positive energy and you're working with sort of love towards what you're doing, even though something might go wrong in the process, once the outcome arrives, it's something that you embrace much more warmly than if you were doing it strictly because you were forced to, right? Because sometimes hard work is like sort of forced upon you, and sort of the most satisfying result is when you're also like emotionally attached to your work.
Mm-hmm.
And this has been insanely useful, especially first semester, because it just felt like the readings would never end. It felt like the work was just always piling up. You're always behind. It just felt like the work is not paying off.
Yeah.
But now looking back on it, the skills that I was able to acquire in that first semester, and also sort of the tangible, I would say, like the tangible stuff is stuff like grades that you sort of receive and see that come back. The hard work was worth it. Yeah.
That's so empowering to hear.
Yeah. Thanks, Mr. Donovan.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Shout out to Mr. Donovan. That's really cute how you remembered that as well.
Mm-hmm. I mentioned this to him numerous times.
Oh.
It's still in my brain, still there.
I love it when like students and teachers have this like little bond. It's professional, yet it's so... It helps you in life later
Mhm.
on.
Yeah.
Do you have any?
Okay, the question I've been thinking of is, well, you're an international student, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you're the only person from Kazakhstan or from Kyrgyzstan.
Mm-hmm.
And you meet a lot of different people with different backgrounds. You can meet a person from, for example, Spain or let's say Slovakia and etc. So it's like you meet people with different backgrounds. And what did you take out from interactions with those people, or maybe there's something new what you learned, what you didn't know was a thing before?
Right. Okay, well, let me start by saying that, and I'm proud of this, there are 3 students from Kazakhstan at Harvard as undergrads, and that's great. From Kyrgyzstan, I think officially I might be the only one right now. There probably have been people in the past, and it's the same from Kazakhstan. But there's also a girl who's in her senior year. She was born in Kyrgyzstan, but she lived most of her life in the US. But we kind of like, she's ethnically Kyrgyz, and we were able to bond over that. This is very interesting. That's a good question. I just feel like all the cultures are so different. I mean, mostly I got to interact with Americans, but I'm a very big fan now of Indian culture. I've been to a few of their events. I don't even remember what they were called, but it was just so bright. There was so much dancing. There was so much good food, and also like food that's very similar to ours. And so while that may not be something that like I particularly learned about them, that was something that I really enjoyed seeing. And they were also like very hospitable, the same way that Kazakh people are. Because I showed up there, and you know, it's very easy to see that I'm not Indian, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that, obviously.
But they were totally okay with people coming into their events, even though they had no like connection to that ethnicity. They were like, "Oh my God, come in, grab our food, you know, watch our dances, participate, blah blah blah." And
So it's like they're not. So it's like people in Harvard are okay with sharing the part of their culture, and
yeah, people are so open about talking about their culture.
and they're like really proud to present it. And oh, actually, the question I've been thinking of during the talent shows, you probably have talent shows, right? Where, or like maybe events where students show
their culture,
their
Yeah.
backgrounds, social and cultural. Have you seen something that like made you go, wow? Now that's cool, for example.
I swear it's those like just the South Asian Society. I think that's what it's called. Whenever they organize events, I have a very close friend who's ethnically Indian, but he's American. He drags me to these events, and I'm so happy whenever he does do that, because their events are genuinely so pretty. So pretty.
Yeah, I agree.
They're so like, there's so much music. There's their dresses. They're so pretty. Just a wonderful environment. I was also able to attend some of the events organized by the Central Asian Society, not in Harvard, but in Boston. So I went to a Nowruz organized. Actually, I don't know who they are. I think it's the Central Asian Society of Boston. But it was a Nowruz celebration in the Museum of Fine Arts. There were so many people. I was surprised. I did not know there was such a huge community of Central Asian people in Boston. There were Kyrgyz people, Kazakh people, Tajik people. So many stalls. Great food. You know. Felt like home.
The best.
Yeah, the best food. Still the best food. But also, I think it's very important to highlight that Americans themselves are, because of how friendly they are, they love learning about different people's cultures. So when you talk to Americans, it's not so much them telling you about their culture. It's much more about them asking you questions about your culture. So like you talk to them about horse meat, and they're always impressed about the fact that people eat horse meat. They're like, oh,
I
you
actually
eat
should.
horses. Yeah, they very impressed by our food. And then whenever you show them our mountains, whenever you show them our nature, they're like, I did not know that Kazakhstan is this pretty. I'm like, yes, you should visit.
Did they actually visit some of them?
I really hope at some point I convince some of them to visit Kazakhstan. I also found out that U.S. citizens are allowed to stay 1 month in Kazakhstan without a visa.
What?
And I tell them this every time they are like, first, it's a tactic.
You're like a marketing agent.
Yeah.
No, it's a tactic.
You're like, you can stay in Kazakhstan 1 month without a visa.
No, I literally do that. It's like, first thing when they ask you about your culture, you talk about horse meat. They get very impressed. They get very interested. You grab their attention. They're like, what? Never tried horse meat
Horse
before.
what?
Yeah, and then you talk about like fermented horse milk, and they get even more impressed.
Oh,
Did you tell them about the fermented goat milk or fermented horse milk?
No, just fermented horse milk.
you should.
I should tell them about goat milk as
try
well.
telling them.
Anyways, after you get them hooked, you tell them about our mountains, and you show them the pictures from our nature.
Yeah.
They get super impressed, and then you tell them about the visa.
And that's it. Deal done. We buy tickets.
Yes.
Girlie's doing marketing.
Well,
as a minor.
you know.
Crazy.
On the topic of food, so what's the food like in America?
It's really bad.
Oh.
Whoa!
wouldn't expect that, would
that
you?
was quick. That was actually quick.
It's. I'm sorry.
The
I'm
McDonald's
sorry.
catching up to you.
No.
Okay. Okay.
Maybe,
Can you
Maybe it's Harvard food.
elaborate in what ways it's bad?
Yeah.
Is it like too fat? Is it like too big? Maybe.
The places that I've tried like vegetables in or like fruits in, well, that's the Harvard dining hall. I'm gonna be honest, I have not really bought vegetables out I have not really bought vegetables. So maybe somewhere in America vegetables are nicer, but I feel like their food is a bit too overprocessed.
Yeah.
Because they might be a bit too obsessed with, you know, non-GMO,
Quantity.
like, you know, all that other stuff. And
And
because
here,
of that, food turns out to be overprocessed. And even tomatoes don't taste like tomatoes. Like, cucumbers taste like cardboard.
what?
like-
Oh.
For real?
Yeah, they just don't taste like anything. It's like, you feel, the texture is very similar, even though I would say it's more foamy than it is like cucumbery. And I think I was telling this to every single person I've met so far.
Yeah.
I was literally about to cry when my mom gave me a cucumber when I came back, because I did not know cucumbers have a taste until I came back home. And apparently cucumbers taste like something. Like, you just have to go abroad, experience the quality of their food, and then come back and appreciate the insane taste of our food here.
That was
Yeah.
that
Disappointing, isn't it?
Yeah.
that is actually wild. Like,
Also, there's too much chicken in the US.
Mm.
Also, a lot of pork, which is not something you see here. Well, also
Yeah,
because
you
of
don't.
religious reasons. But pork, chicken is something that is always there in the dining hall,
Mm.
and tends to, like, especially pork tends to be very fatty.
Yeah.
You don't get that much beef. I have not seen lamb.
That's devastating for Kazakh.
Yeah, the only time I've seen lamb is like in a Greek place.
Oh.
So like
That's
there's no lamb. There's salmon sometimes, which is nice. But yeah, also too many potatoes. You know, whenever in movies they show American high schools, they
Yeah.
also show their food, and their food is like burgers and French fries and
is it true?
yes.
What?
It's not only is it true, it's also true in college.
Oh.
Do they like always eat like burgers and fries and pizza?
I'm telling you, when you arrive to university, while there's always brown rice, I appreciate that. There's always brown rice, and they always do some form of like either meat or like shrimp or fish, and they always do some form of cooked vegetables. But something that they every single day they have it's chicken nuggets or like some form of like fried chicken with the crispy whatever layer on top. French fries, always there. Does not matter like what's going on. French fries are always there. And then like every other week you get a burger.
That sounds so nice. Like,
And
I
there's-
know it's unhealthy, but it sounds so good.
There's also a soda machine.
What?
In every single dining hall, there's a soda machine. So you can get like any amount of cola you want, any amount of Sprite you want. But then you also start facing the problem of like
Diabetes.
yeah, and just overeating. Overeating. And it seemed nice at first having fast food there.
Yeah?
But now looking back, I'm so glad Haileybury doesn't do that.
Yeah, me too.
Like, I swear, especially kids, they would...
Dude.
University students have a problem with that. Because it tastes... like, French fries taste so good, fried chicken tastes so good, that you just stop controlling yourself. And
Yeah.
the only... like, the point where you realize it's hurting you is the point you start gaining a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, because you're more or less an adult, you're like, oh, wait, maybe I should push back on things like this. But I swear, as a kid, no one would think about this, right?
No
So-
salad bars, no nothing?
No, there's a salad bar,
Okay.
definitely. Like, you can make nicer meals.
Okay.
I'm just saying that even, like, the salad
Yeah,
bar,
definitely.
like, I was ranting about the cucumbers. Right? So, I'm so glad that schools here don't do that.
Yeah. Me
Yes,
too.
we don't have a lot of options as kids in terms of, like, how we're fed. So glad that we don't.
At least they're healthy.
Yeah, at least it's healthy. Yeah.
That's true.
So, the question is, where do you get your pocket money from? So, like, okay, no, let me rephrase it. What is your status in terms of finances? So, do you does your scholarship cover your pocket finances? Maybe some extra expenditure?
Well, for me personally, no, but I don't know if there are scholarships that would cover a stipend. I get pocket money from my parents. And also last semester, I was very lucky to get a job. So I was working in the statistics department. I took a course in the fall semester, and then I was TFing that course in the spring semester. TFing is like, basically there's a huge lecture class, and the professor teaches the main content of, like, within the lectures. And then they do this thing called sections, which is they break up the entire, like, class into groups of 15 to 20 students, and that group of people is allocated a teaching fellow. Most of the time it's grad students, especially when the class is complicated, but when it's a simpler class, they sometimes bring in undergrads who have taken the course before, and they meet up once a week after lecture. Lecture usually happens like twice a week or something, but they meet up once a week and they just go over the content, they do extra practice problems. So basically it's like a way for you to consolidate your knowledge, and I was able to, get a position as a TF for one of the statistics classes, and they paid quite well. I think for university standards, I was able to earn $23 an hour, which is more than, like, I would say more than enough. I think I spend less because you're like, the work entailed 9 to 13 hours a week. And so you would make, like, I don't know, $200-ish.
That is impressive.
A week?
Yeah.
Considering all the taxes. Oh my God, don't even get me started on taxes. They make
no.
no sense. But yeah, after all the taxes deducted, it's, I would say that's enough. Because I don't spend that much money outside of university because you get fed there. Right? So most of your expenses are either going to, like, cleaning supplies, or, like, sometimes when you want, like, randomly you decided you wanted strawberries or, like, some berries or something that they don't give you in the dining hall, you go out and buy that. Or, like, you're grabbing coffee with your friends, you're going off to Boston to grab dinner with your friends. Like, that's where most of the money goes, but that amount was more than enough, I would say, for a week.
As a Harvard student, do you have a lot of free time? And if you have free time, no free time, absolutely no.
It's so hard to find free time.
Ooh.
At least an hour.
Maybe an hour.
A day or like a week, a year?
A year?
How does that work?
Okay, first of all, because of the amount of work, you kind of cut back on your sleep, which is not a good thing to do. But it all builds back up once you reach reading period, which is like steadily for you guys. You catch up on your sleep. Ask the rest of your question. What did you want to ask about free time? Because
Like,
it depends on what you mean by free time.
Okay, how would you define free time then? Like, give me
It's different for a lot of people, because for some people free time is like time that they spend not studying or not working,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
For some people, they build up that free time with like meeting with friends, and they no longer consider that free time because like it's work related, like meetings, or it's networking activities or extracurriculars, right?
Yeah.
Do extracurricular are extracurriculars part of your free time, or is this something, because technically you're not forced to do it. School you have to do, right?
Yeah.
Extracurriculars is something you don't really have to be doing, but it pushes itself into free time,
So
right? So
out of this, okay, the time that you don't spend on stuff like, I don't know, work or studying, how else do you spend it usually?
right, so most of my time goes off to studying. If I'm not studying,
Sleeping.
time is allocated to, yes, sleep. Also, something I did not do my first semester, which I should have done, but I definitely did in my second semester, was sport.
Oh, okay.
Another thing, I never realized how important PE was. I found PE low-key annoying in high school. Like, I was like, why do I have to spend an hour of my time when I could be studying, doing some physical activity with a group of like 50, 16-year-olds, right?
Yeah.
Like, it just felt useless. But now looking back on it, if I wasn't forced to do sports, I probably wouldn't. And that's exactly what happened my first semester. And by the end of my first semester, I could feel my bones aching. I did not think that there's like that's a thing that when you don't do enough sport, your body starts hurting. It feels counterintuitive.
Yeah.
But it's something that I experienced, and I was like, I have to change that. So second semester, I signed up for the figure skating club. I brought my skates from back home. I went skating like once, twice a week. Best decision ever. Sometimes we would go on runs with a couple of my friends. What else? Free time. So some of it goes to sport. Radcliffe Choral Society takes up a lot of my time because there are 2 rehearsals a week, both of them 2-hour long. And sometimes, because when it's concert week, you rehearse more, but also because the performance is usually on a Friday or a Saturday, the entire day needs to be allocated to that. Because they will have like rehearsals and I think it's called callback. I'm not entirely sure. But basically, when they're checking all the microphones and everything, and when you're preparing for, getting your voice warmed up, that takes a day. So that's another thing. What else do I do in my free time? Also just like meeting up with friends and going exploring Boston, exploring libraries, exploring good food places. So I'd say, yeah, these are my free time options.
That's a lot of options.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
for so okay, do you get generally how many hours a week do you get of free time? Just give an approximate number. Like
So, okay, and free time we say like we include stuff like RCS, like the Radcliffe Choral Society, the running, all of that, like those activities, right? Because I feel like it's
okay. Include everything what you genuinely enjoy. So for example,
okay. I enjoy studying, so like
No.
Oh no!
Like no obligation to do it. You just do it because you want to.
I see. Okay. I would say a lot of free time if you define it that way. Because if you take 4 classes, which is the standard 4 credit classes, say you spend like maximum 4 hours on a lecture time a week for each class.
Mm-hmm.
And then you spend, I would say, 6 to 8 hours a week per class for homework and like work outside of class, because university is very different from high school. In high school, I feel like you get homework, but most of the learning happens in school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? And also it's because you spend so much time in school. You arrive at 9 a.m. and you leave by 5. Right? So there's like a set out timetable. For universities, you have classes like twice a week in a section. And you only take 4 classes. So it's basically like A-level, but you're free to do whatever you want when you don't have classes. And so you end up doing like extra work to actually understand what happened in lecture. Because most of the time it's like, I genuinely don't know what I just heard and what the professor said. So I don't know. Who can do the math?
Okay.
You.
Here's the calculator. Let's go.
Let's get a calculator. So how many hours are there in a week?
24 by 7. 168.
Okay, and so let's say you spend 6 hours. Well, let's say the average 7 hours a week for one class, and then plus lecture time, which I would say is 4. So 7 plus 4 is 11. 11 hours per week per class, and say you have 4 classes, but I usually take like 5. But let's say you take 4 classes like a normal human being.
Okay.
144 minus, so 168 minus 44.
It's 124.
124 hours a week you get for basically everything else, for sleep, for eating, because you also need to plan out your meals. This is
Yeah.
You need to plan your meals.
yeah, I completely forgot about that when I was coming up with my first semester schedule, because again, in school
You get fed.
You get fed, and you get fed on a timetable.
Yeah.
They don't really give you a choice. They tell you you're having breakfast at this point. You can also have breakfast before school, but like you're having breakfast at this point, you're having lunch at this point, and then like you come home and your parents make you dinner, or like you make dinner together. But basically, there's like a set out
Yeah.
time for every single meal. Bless you.
Thank you. Sorry.
University, because you're the one setting up your timetable, you can plan when your meals are, but I completely forgot the fact that like I had to do that.
Mm.
So, and like another thing, when you go to uni, don't forget to like include lunches and stuff,
Definitely.
because then you end up with like 3 classes in a row, and you're like, oh wait, so I will be in class from like 9 till like 4 p.m. with no food.
You'll be
Like-
photosynthesizing.
Yeah,
Yes.
for real. Like, at this point, yes. Which is also hard to do in Boston, because Boston is not very sunny.
Oh man.
Yeah, so
Right.
I don't know, 124 hours, I guess.
Pretty fair calculation.
Cool.
And now that our little interview is coming to an end, I will be asking you our last question, which is,
Sure.
okay, what is your biggest, most realistic advice for students who are aspiring to go to Harvard? In our school or any other school, regardless.
Or like to any Ivy school, Ivy University, I guess.
But mainly like focusing on
Yeah.
Harvard.
Find your passion.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's hard to do, especially when you're so young. And God knows, when I was 16, I did not even know I was going to be interested in law. Right?
Yeah.
So just explore, read, talk to people, see what is interesting. And I'm not saying I 100% know what I want to be doing and what my passion is, but I just know that I really, really enjoy law. And that's something I'm going to center my work around. And once you sort of find that one thing that is super interesting to you, tailor all your activities towards that.
Mm-hmm.
Be it extracurricular activities, be it while you're studying. Like, I know classes in A-levels are very demanding, but even things like history, you can tailor your history A-level towards your legal interest. Because especially like with the civil rights relations that you're
Yeah.
going to be learning, you will learn specific cases. I found that so interesting. I then, like, throughout the entirety of the course, I would look at extra, like, legal cases that I'd never write about them in essays because, well, you know, A-levels don't want that. But it's just something that you can sort of explore on your own and tailor your studies, which are pre-made for you, but tailor them towards your interests.
Mm-hmm.
So find your passion, or find something that you genuinely care about in the world, or something that, like, a topic you find really interesting, and just center your work around that. Another thing is just enjoy the experience. I know it's all stressful, and it's easy for me to say now that I'm, like, sort of on the other side of the river, you know. But I will not say that I didn't enjoy it. It was insanely stressful, but it was also insanely enjoyable. The process itself, the application process, getting everything together, even all those years of hard work, of extracurriculars, of academics, all of that was enjoyable. And I know for some people it's hard to study. It's hard to find studying overall enjoyable. I think the advice there is romanticize it. You know?
agree. I do that.
Yeah, like, light up a candle for yourself.
Go
while
to a
you're-
cafe.
Go to a cafe, yes. Put on, like, I don't know,
Depressing music.
or jazz music.
Oh.
I cannot
Like, either
relate to that.
Like, some people need like quiet, dead quiet, and need like no distractions whatsoever to work. But some people need the stimulation and need the oh, you know, I'm actually doing something useful in the world by studying this math class. Like, make
Pretend.
studying fun for yourself. For yourself. Romanticize your work, and that way you will really enjoy your experience. And I think the best advice I could give is just, okay, do what you like, do what you're passionate about, enjoy the process, and also take care of yourself.
Excellent advice, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's great.
Thank you so much for your time.
Of course.
Alikseniia.
Thank you so
Haileybury.
much for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This has been great. Hope you all enjoyed the Haileybury podcast, second one, and we'll see you in the next one.
Hopefully. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.